Hi, grade fours. Today we're going to do interesting work. I'm going to explain to you how to do a recipe. Step-by-step instructions on how to write a recipe. Right. When we write, there's three things we always need to do when we write. The first thing, we have to have a mind map. We have to have a first draft, and we have to have a final draft. In the mind map, we just gather all our thoughts together so that we know what we're going to write about in the first draft. So now the first draft is going to look exactly like how you want your creative writing to look like. And then you're going to read through everything, see if there's anything you need to change, and then we write our perfect final draft. Right, so today we're going to do a recipe. And let's look at the structure of the recipe. In other words, how the recipe should look like when we write it down. Okay, so this is a recipe for apple pie. Do you see at the top, I have my title. That's the first thing we need to write down is a title. And then we leave a line open. Then we have to tell people now what this recipe is about. This is a recipe for my granny's famous apple pie. That is our introduction line. After the introduction line, we need to leave a line open again. So now, when we write a recipe, remember we have to tell people what is in this recipe, and that we call ingredients. Okay. So the ingredients is a list of everything you need for your recipe. For the apple pie, I need 5 apples, 125 milligrams of butter, 1 cup sugar, 1 cup flour, and 2 eggs. That is all the ingredients that I need for my recipe. Right, so if you have a look now at this, the way we write it, you can either write it one list down, or you can write it in 2 columns next to each other just to save some space. After we've written down our ingredients, we leave a line open again, and then we start with our method or the steps. Okay, so the steps, you need to write them directly underneath each other, and we have to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You need to write down 5 steps. Okay, if you have a look at the method, let's read through this method. Method 1, peel the apples and cut into thin slices. Do you see that I started with a verb? A verb, remember, is a doing word. When we write down these steps, we always start with the verb. I'll show you just now in the mind map what you should do as well there. So we write down in the mind map all the verbs that we're going to use to make our sentences with. The first word will be peel, because my sentence is peel the apples and cut into thin slices. The second sentence is melt the butter and sugar with apples in a pot. Melt is the verb. Mix the eggs and flour. Right, that's also, mix is a verb. Add everything in a cake pan. Bake until golden brown. So did you see all the steps starts with a verb? And that's what you're going to use in your mind map. Right now, at the end, you have to leave a line open again and then write down your conclusion line. Conclusion line is where you just take everything together and say, right, so this is my recipe. Enjoy this lovely apple pie recipe with some cream. Okay. So this is the structure. If you're going to write now your own recipe just now, this is how it should look. At the top, apple pie, leave a line open, then you write your introduction line. It's where you tell the people this is what the recipe is about. You leave a line open again, and then you write down all the ingredients. The ingredients is everything that you need to add to your apple pie. Then you leave a line open again, and you start with your method. The method, you number each step and you write them directly underneath each other. You leave a line open again, and then you write your conclusion line. Enjoy this lovely apple pie recipe with some cream. Okay, before we carry on, something very important. You have to count your words and write at the bottom, like always, your word count. Now, your recipe should be between 40 to 60 words. Mine is 53. You only count your first line, the introduction line, then the method, all those steps, and your last conclusion line. That is the only words that you count for your word count. You'll see, to make it easier for you to see, I wrote down all the total for each line next to it. So the first line, my introduction line, I had 10 words. Then you don't count the ingredients, you count the method. My first step, I had 8 words. The second step, 11. The third, 5, 6, and 4. And then my last conclusion line, I had 9. Then you have to count all of them together, and then you get your word count, 53. Right. You are now going to write your own recipe down. How to make toast. It's very easy, but remember, if we write down instructions, especially when we bake something, we have to be specific in everything that you write down. It needs to make sense, number one, and number two, it needs to follow in the correct order. I can't bake the apple pie before I even made it. But if you bake it until golden brown, should be at the bottom. So you have to go think and really, how do I make toast? First of all, go think about all your ingredients that you need, and then you write them down. Let's go to the mind map. So you're going to write your own recipe on how to make toast. Right. In the mind map, you have to write down your title. First of all, you write down your title. Then you write down, you're going to have 5 steps. So you write down the key words for each step. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Remember, I told you, we always start with a verb. Let me just move me out of the way. We always start with a verb. So for these key words, you write down verbs. The first word of each sentence that you are going to write down. Okay, so this is your mind map. At this stage, you can quickly pause now, and then you can do your mind map. Write down title in the middle, so your title now. And then you write down 5 verbs for the 5 sentences that you're going to use in your steps. Right. Now, how is your first draft going to look? Your first draft, this is exactly how your first draft should look like. Okay, so let's have a look here at the left, the structure of the recipe. I have to have a title, an introduction line, ingredients, steps, and conclusion line. This is how it should look. So you can pause now, and when you write your first draft, tick down all of these structure elements of the recipe that I wrote down for you at the left. So pause the video and then make sure that you write your title at the beginning, leave a line open, then you write your introduction line. You can start with these words. This is a recipe for, and you can finish the sentence. Then you leave a line open again. You write down all your ingredients that you need. Remember, it's a list of things. And then you start with your steps or your method. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, directly underneath each other. Leave a line open again. And then you finish your recipe with your conclusion line. And you can start with the word enjoy. And remember then to do your word count as well. Okay, so now pause the video and do your first draft. Right. You are done now with your first draft. You can ask your mom or dad to just read through it and help you with spelling. But I told them that you should do this all on your own. So for your final draft, I want you to type it, ask mom and dad to help you so that you can type it and then email it to me by this email address. And then remember to add your name, surname, and as well as your class. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick some of the recipes, not all of them. I'm going to read through all of them, and then I'm going to pick a few, and then by Friday I'm going to send you a video how I made your toast. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to making your toasts.